So here a raft 27 feet from the shore is tied by a rope that runs perpendicular to the shoreline. So here's your rope. Here's your perpendicular distance of 27 feet. Shoreline's right over here. This is the shoreline. So this raft is floating out here in the water. So Madison wants to tie a second line from point B to the raft, where the angle right here, corner of that raft, is 38 degrees. If 5 feet at each end are required to tie the line down, how long must the line be? So first off, we need to figure out what is this value right there. And then we're going to say 5 feet at each end are required. So we have to factor that in at the very end. But here we're given a right triangle. So the idea here is that you have a right triangle, and we're given an angle and a side of it, and we should be able to find any other side, these other two sides over here and here, using trig ratios. So the three trig ratios that most often are used is the sine, the cosine, and the tangent. And the sine of an angle, we'll just call it angle x, is equal to a ratio of the opposite side divided by the hypotenuse. So if I have a triangle that deals with the opposite side of this angle and the hypotenuse, then I want to use the sine to solve this. So let's look over here at what we have. We have the angle here of 38 degrees. So we know that angle is 38. So this right here would be 38 degrees. And we have the side that is opposite that angle. Okay, so this is the opposite side of that angle. The side that is across from the right angle. The side across from the right angle is the hypotenuse. And then the side left over, or the side that makes up this angle here, so the hypotenuse and the angle that makes it up, is the adjacent side. So the one left over is your adjacent side. So for this question, we're given the opposite side, and we want to find the hypotenuse. The opposite side, and we want to find the hypotenuse. So that's both of those sides to use that trig ratio. If we were talking about the cosine of x degrees, well, the cosine is the adjacent side divided by the hypotenuse. And notice that we don't have that, right? We don't care about this adjacent side, but we do have we want to find the hypotenuse, but we don't have, nor do we want to find the adjacent side. So we're not going to use the cosine. And the tangent. So if we're going to focus on this 38 degrees here, right? The sides that we need to be fooling with here, the tangent is the opposite side over the adjacent side. And we have the opposite, right? We talked about the opposite. We're given the opposite, but we don't have, or we don't care about the adjacent. So we're not using the tangent. The only one that we're using here is the sine, because it's the only one of the three that either is a side that's given or a side that we want. And a lot of people will remember this by saying SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA. The sine is the opposite over hypotenuse. The cosine is the adjacent over hypotenuse. And the tangent is the opposite over adjacent. So to pick which one you want, it really depends on the side that's the two sides that you're messing with, basically. So you're going to have an angle in a side that is opposite that angle or adjacent to that angle, and then you're going to have a side that's wanted or needs to be solved for. So since I knew the opposite side of that 38 degrees, and I want to find the hypotenuse, we're going to use the sine. If I was given the adjacent side, then we'd use cosine. If the 27 feet was down here instead, well, that's the adjacent over hypotenuse. We use the cosine. So that's how you kind of figure out which one of those three do you use. So the sine, we're going to do the sine, let's use a different color here, of 38 degrees is equal to, remember it's opposite over hypotenuse, the opposite side of 27 over hypotenuse of, I'll put a question mark here, right, hypotenuse. And since this is a fraction here, to solve for this denominator, all you're going to do is switch those out. The sine of 38 degrees is a value. So to solve for that denominator, you multiply both sides and then divide. All you do is switch it out. Okay, so let's make sure our mode is in degree mode. Okay, we got degree mode. We're going to take 27 divided by the sine of 38 degrees. And we get 43.855. So we have to say if 5 feet at the each end are required to tie the line down, how long does it need to be? So it has to be 43.855 here. Then you need to add about 5 feet on that side, add about 5, so let's add 10 more feet. So it needs to be 53.855 or approximately 54, depends on where you want to round. But this is approximately 54 feet.